the Black Dahlia Murder case that still haunts the streets of Los Angeles. In 1947, Elizabeth Short, a promising young actress with dreams of Hollywood fame, was discovered in a gruesome state. Her body severed in half and left in a vacant lot. Despite countless investigations, rumors, and wild theories, her killer was never found. But what if the truth is buried deeper than we ever imagined? Was this just the work of a sick, twisted mind? Or is there a much darker secret lurking in the shadows of Tinseltown? Join us as we uncover the most chilling theories behind one of Hollywood, his most infamous and unsolved crimes, the murder of the Black Dahlia. It was a cold January morning in 1947 when the shocking discovery of a woman's dismembered body sent ripples through Los Angeles. Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old aspiring actress from Massachusetts, had been found mutilated and abandoned in a vacant lot. Her body, severed at the waist, was left exposed in such a way that the sheer brutality of the crime seemed impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a murder, it was a statement. A horrific act that seemed to defy any reasonable explanation. Born on July 29, 1924, Elizabeth was the youngest of 5 daughters. She grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, but her life took a dramatic turn when she moved to California in 1943. Like many young women, Elizabeth was drawn to the allure of Hollywood, hoping to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. While her beauty was undeniable, Elizabeth struggled to find fame, often working odd jobs and living in poverty, far from the glamorous life she had imagined. However, her beauty didn't go unnoticed in the circles of the city. In fact, she was nicknamed the Black Dahlia due to her striking dark features and the black clothing she often wore. This dark, alluring image made her the perfect subject of fascination. But what most people didn't know was that Elizabeth's life was marked by a sense of tragedy. Her father, George, had abandoned her family when she was young, leaving her with a deep sense of abandonment. She became known for her melancholy, yet captivating presence. Elizabeth had also been in a series of failed relationships, which only added to her sense of isolation. On the night of her death, Elizabeth had been staying at the Biltmore Hotel. It's a popular spot for aspiring actresses at the time. According to her last known interactions, she had been meeting with a man who claimed to be interested in helping her with her acting career. But she would never make it out of the hotel that night. The next day, her body was found in the vacant lot. The gruesome nature of the crime left investigators and the public horrified. Elizabeth had been severely mutilated. Her mouth was cut into a gruesome smile. Her body had been drained of blood, leaving little to no trace of the brutal act that had taken place. Whoever was responsible for this crime was not just a killer, they were sending a message. The police quickly started investigating, but they soon realized that this was no ordinary crime. There were no eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, and no obvious suspects. The only clue was a strange phone call the police received shortly after the discovery. A man had called, claiming to have information about the case, and hinted that the killer had been watching Elizabeth for weeks before the crime. As the investigation unfolded, the mystery deepened. Every lead seemed to take the police in different directions, but none led to a solid answer. Theories began to form about who Elizabeth was and why she'd been chosen for such a gruesome fate. Some believed she was the victim of a serial killer, while others speculated that the case was linked to the underworld of Hollywood, where powerful men had their own secrets to protect. Rumors swirled, and the public became captivated by the case. Elizabeth Short's story became one of the most infamous in American crime history. But the real question remained: who killed the Black Dahlia? And why did they feel the need to carry out such an unspeakable act? Theories would soon start to emerge, each more chilling than the last. As the investigation into the Black Dahlia murder continued, a cloud of mystery surrounded every clue and lead. The authorities, struggling to find tangible evidence, were left with a puzzling question: who could have been capable of such a brutal crime, and why? Over the years, countless theories emerged, each offering a glimpse into the dark mind of a possible killer. Some pointed to dangerous criminals, while others speculated on the involvement of powerful figures within Hollywood itself. One of the first and most persistent theories was that Elizabeth Short was a victim of a serial killer. The chilling nature of her murder, her body meticulously mutilated and drained of blood, seemed to fit the pattern of other violent crimes committed in Los Angeles at the time. Some investigators believe that Short's murder was just another in a string of similar killings. Many pointed to a man named George Hodel, a Los Angeles physician who became a prime suspect in the case. Hodel had been known for his strange and suspicious behavior, and many believe that he might have had a personal motive for killing Short. His connection to the crime was further solidified by the discovery of disturbing photos in his personal collection. These photographs, which surfaced years after his death, depicted young women, some of whom resembled Elizabeth Short. Additionally, his own son, Steve Hodel, who later became a detective, claimed that his father had been the murderer of the Black Dahlia. Steve's theory suggested that George Hodel had been obsessed with Elizabeth Short and had killed her to satisfy some dark, perverse urge. According to Steve, his father had even gone so far as to hire a team of accomplices to assist in the crime. Though no hard evidence ever linked Hodel to the murder, the chilling possibility that a respected physician was behind such a gruesome crime became a cornerstone of the investigation. Another theory emerged from the belief that Elizabeth Short's murder was tied to the world of Hollywood. Short had spent several years in Los Angeles trying to make a name for herself in the movie industry. Some believed that her death was a warning to other young women who dared to dream of stardom. During the 1940s, Hollywood was rife with dark secrets, and the theory went that Elizabeth's murder was the result of a powerful person in the industry who wanted to silence her. Was Elizabeth caught up in the corrupt and dangerous side of Hollywood? Was she targeted by a wealthy, influential man who saw her as a threat? Some believed that the killer might have been a producer, a director, or even a famous actor who had been rejected by Elizabeth in some way. The possibility that a Hollywood mogul could have been involved in such a heinous act added a layer of intrigue to the case that fascinated the public. Additionally, there was a theory that suggested Elizabeth Short's murder was linked to her involvement with organized crime. Short had been seen with various men, and one of them was rumored to have connections to the mafia. Some believed that Elizabeth had unknowingly gotten tangled in a dangerous web of criminals, and that her murder was the result of a personal vendetta or a mistake. The underworld connections in Hollywood and Los Angeles during this time were vast. It was not hard to imagine that a woman like Elizabeth Short could have found herself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Perhaps she had crossed a line or been in the wrong company, leading to her tragic and untimely death. Despite the myriad theories, the case remained cold, and the real identity of Elizabeth Short's killer remained elusive. Each theory added to the intrigue, but none could fully explain the horror of the crime. Was it the work of a deranged serial killer, a vengeful Hollywood figure, or a victim of the dangerous world of organized crime? Theories continued to surface, but the truth behind the Black Dahlia murder was more elusive than ever. As the months turned into years, the investigation into Elizabeth Short's murder seemed to hit a wall. Despite the initial media frenzy and widespread public interest, the authorities were unable to find concrete evidence or a clear suspect. The case became one of the most frustrating and perplexing murder investigations in American history. As the public continued to speculate, the LAPD found itself under intense pressure to bring justice for Elizabeth Short. Theories, rumors, and wild accusations ran rampant, but no one could piece together the puzzle. In the early days of the investigation, the police had few leads to go on. Elizabeth's body had been carefully positioned in a vacant lot. The way it had been severed and mutilated suggested that the killer was both methodical and highly organized. The brutality of the crime sent shockwaves through Los Angeles, but it also raised difficult questions. How could such a crime have occurred without leaving a trace? Was the killer someone with expert knowledge of anatomy, or a disturbed individual with a deep need for control? One of the first suspects to emerge was the aforementioned George Hodel, the Los Angeles physician. His suspicious behavior, combined with the disturbing photographs of women that had been found in his possession, led many to believe he might have been involved. The LAPD at the time, however, lacked the evidence needed to make an arrest. Hodel was not the only person of interest, though. As the investigation dragged on, a number of other individuals came under suspicion. Some were men who had been romantically involved with Elizabeth Short, while others were simply people with connections to the city's dark underworld. During the investigation, the police received several phone calls and letters from individuals claiming to know something about the crime. In particular, one mysterious letter sent to the Los Angeles Examiner newspaper seemed to be written by the killer himself. The letter, which was postmarked from Los Angeles, contained a chilling message. "I will give up the girl's name to the police if they will promise not to kill me. I will also tell them where I put the rest of her, but I'll give them only a name and a number." This letter stirred a wave of public excitement, some believing it was from the killer, while others dismissed it as a hoax. The police couldn't determine whether the letter was genuine or just the work of someone trying to take advantage of the media frenzy. What made it even more strange was that the writer, who referred to Elizabeth Short as the Dahlia, seemed to enjoy playing with the investigation. This letter was just one of many strange communications the police received, but none led to a breakthrough. Despite these efforts, no concrete evidence was found, and the LAPD struggled to maintain its focus on the case. The passage of time made it increasingly difficult to pinpoint suspects. Witnesses' memories began to fade, and the trail grew colder with every passing day. Elizabeth's name became synonymous with mystery, and the public's fascination with her case seemed to grow, fueled by sensational headlines and speculative theories. The media played a large role in both the investigation and the public's obsession with the Black Dahlia case. Newspapers and tabloids sensationalized every new development, turning Elizabeth's tragic death into a story of intrigue and horror. Every detail about her life, from her romantic entanglements to her supposed connections with powerful men, was scrutinized. The Black Dahlia murder quickly became a media sensation, with the case often overshadowing the actual investigation. Some journalists even began to insert their own theories into the public discourse, further muddying the waters. In 1949, the case was officially closed by the LAPD due to a lack of leads. However, the Black Dahlia murder continued to haunt both the public and law enforcement. Over the years, there would be numerous attempts to reopen the case, but no new evidence surfaced. Even though the Los Angeles Police Department officially closed the case on the Black Dahlia murder in 1949, the story of Elizabeth Short never truly ended. Decades passed, and still the case remained a dark enigma, frequently revisited by journalists, true crime enthusiasts, and even armchair detectives. New theories, claims, and potential leads have emerged over the years, and the fascination with the case remains as strong as ever. One of the most notable events in the resurgence of the Black Dahlia case came in the early 2000s when the Los Angeles Police Department decided to revisit the investigation, spurred on by the release of a new book. In 2003, former LAPD detective Steve Hodel, son of George Hodel, published a book titled Black Dahlia Avenger: The True Story. In this book, Hodel argued that his father, George, was the murderer of Elizabeth Short. Steve Hodel's theory was built on years of his own investigation into his father's life and the evidence he had uncovered. Steve's claims weren't just speculative, they were based on a deep examination of his father's personal life, professional behavior, and certain disturbing clues. For example, he pointed to the fact that George Hodel was known to have attended parties where young women were present, many of whom were seen in photographs that were eerily similar to Elizabeth Short. Steve argued that his father had a penchant for controlling and manipulating women. Elizabeth Short might have been yet another victim of his obsession. Another piece of evidence Steve Hodel pointed to was a series of unsettling recordings. One of these tapes, made while George Hodel was under investigation for another crime, seemed to implicate him in the Black Dahlia murder. On the tape, George could be heard discussing how they would never find the body, suggesting a deep knowledge of the crime that only the killer could have possessed. Steve Hodel argued that his father had been hiding the truth for decades, and he was finally bringing it to light. However, Steve Hodel's theory has not been universally accepted. While it has gained attention, many experts and critics argue that the evidence he presented is circumstantial at best. The LAPD, despite revisiting the case, found no definitive proof that George Hodel was the killer. While some remain convinced that Steve's theory is correct, others believe that it may just be another twist in a long line of speculations that have led nowhere. Yet this renewed investigation into George Hodel's life and his potential connection to the murder kept the Black Dahlia case alive, sparking public interest once more. In addition to Steve Hodel's book, other works have continued to fuel the public's obsession with Elizabeth Short's tragic death. Countless documentaries, books, and podcasts have been produced over the years, each offering a new angle or theory. Some have focused on the role of Hollywood in the case, suggesting that Elizabeth Short's murder was connected to the darker, hidden side of the film industry. Others have speculated that she may have been involved with powerful men who had reasons to silence her. One of the more unusual theories that gained attention was based on the idea that Elizabeth Short may have been murdered because of her connection to a notorious criminal figure. Some have argued that she had been involved with the mafia, possibly through a relationship with a man named Johnny Stampanato, a well-known enforcer for the mafia. Stampanato was a volatile figure in Hollywood, and his violent relationships with women were infamous. Despite decades of investigation, the Black Dahlia murder remains unsolved, and Elizabeth Short's tragic fate continues to captivate the public. Theories about who could have been responsible for this gruesome crime continue to swirl, with figures like George Hodel, Hollywood elites, and even the mafia being implicated in different theories. Yet no one has ever been convicted of her murder, and no definitive evidence has ever surfaced to close the case. The murder of Elizabeth Short not only left the city of Los Angeles in shock, but also left behind a legacy of obsession, mystery, and intrigue. The Black Dahlia murder has become a cornerstone of American crime lore, inspiring countless books, films, and documentaries. Its impact on true crime culture cannot be understated, as it continues to spark the imagination of people around the world. What makes this case so compelling is the eerie combination of Hollywood glamour, the chilling nature of the crime, and the fact that the truth has never been revealed. The unanswered questions only add to the allure of the story, ensuring that the Black Dahlia will never be forgotten, though the case may never be solved. Elizabeth Short's story will remain one of the most enduring mysteries in American history.